The following public information presentation is being brought to you with support from Jeff's Pirates Cove in Epan, Talifofo. Now serving breakfast. Open 7 days a week, starting 8 a.m.
My name is Ken Leon Guerrero. I am the spokesperson for Guam Citizens for Public Accountability. Last night, we listened as Governor Calvo declared the state of the island is strong, and nothing could be further from the truth. The state of the island is scared. What we heard last night was political spin on what is turning out to be a failed administration. I say a failed administration because the cost of living is going up. The quality of life is going down, and our children are leaving Guam. Those are the signs of a failed administration. So, one thing that really impressed me is how he avoided until the very last minute talking about the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Guam's rapidly deteriorating financial situation. It's getting so bad so fast that unless our political leaders develop a backbone and find the political will to do the right things first before they raise taxes, we will probably end up with a federal receiver just like Puerto Rico. And it's no surprise, it really isn't. For 4 years, all of our political leaders have seen the warning signs. And for them to claim at the very last minute to be the victims of the U.S. tax code, nothing could be further from the truth. We've had the ability to de-link from the U.S. tax code for over 40 years. We just haven't had the political will to do it, and now we, the people, are paying the penalty for our politicians' lack of political will to do the right thing, as opposed to doing the easy thing. This is no surprise. We were warned 14 months ago with the election of President Trump that he was going to cut taxes, that he was going to cut the federal budget. For the governor to claim in the last minutes of his speech that basically no one saw this coming, nothing could be further from the truth. So after 45 minutes of patting himself on the back about what a great job his administration has done, the last few minutes of his speech were all about the pressing and urgent need to increase taxes. What we didn't hear was any plans to reduce expenses. In fact, we heard quite the opposite. We heard the governor declare there was no fat left to cut. The reality is, there is no political will to cut the fat. And he's trying to get the senators to do his job for them. In fact, he's counting on them to do his job for them. And he knows he can't lose. They either cut the fat, take the blame, or they pass his tax increase and take the blame. So it's a no-lose situation for the governor at this point, because he's not running for re-election, can't run for re-election. So, in an effort to give our senators and governors some ideas of where they could cut back some of the fat, I have a few suggestions. The first one is to roll back all the Hay Study pay raises. For government of Guam employees, most of the rollback will be offset by the increased take-home as a result of the tax cut. So there will be very little impact on government of Guam employees, with the exception of the managers and directors. They might have a little bit of a problem as they lose their massive pay raises they got in secret session. The alternative is, if we don't roll back the pay raises, which will save government of Guam somewhere between 30 and 40 million, then we have to increase the taxes on everybody, making the cost of living substantially higher for residents of Guam. So we're looking at somewhere between $30 and $40 million reduction of operating expenses, which will offset 2/3 of the projected losses for the next year. And my second suggestion is convert the business privilege tax to a sales tax, keeping it at the same level, but capturing the taxes on about the $300 to $400 million a year in internet sales that take place here on Guam. If we just captured that 4% on internet sales, for those who shop on the internet, you would still get the convenience and lower prices even with the tax. But what we would do is raise between 12 and 14 million for government of Guam. So with just those two steps alone, we can reduce operating expenses by 40 million plus raise revenue by 16 million. That's about 56 million adjustment to government of Guam's position. The third recommendation would be to double the real estate tax and use the increase in tax as the funding source for GMH. Right now, real estate taxes on Guam are about $30 million. Doubling the real estate tax, we would still have the lowest tax in the United States, because right now, even if we doubled property taxes, our property taxes in Guam would only be 40% of Hawaii, which has the lowest property tax in the nation. And then we could reappraise property at sale using the appraisal price. That would give a steady increase in revenue for government of Guam on the property tax. But by doing the adjustments at resale, families who want to stay in their homes and stay on their property will not be taxed out of their homes and properties due to increases in property taxes until the time of sale. And those increases would be the responsibility of the new owner. Number 4, and this is a big one. We need to pass a law allowing government of Guam to renegotiate or cancel equipment leases and rentals. Government of Guam leases a lot of office equipment, copiers, printers, heavy equipment, things like that, and leases. They should be allowed to renegotiate those leases to terms more favorable to the government. And by making them more favorable to the government, we make them more favorable for taxpayers. De-link from the U.S. IRS. We should have de-linked years ago, but we didn't have the political will to do so, and we are now paying the price. We need to de-link so that we don't get any more adverse actions inflicted upon the people of Guam by a tax code designed for the United States mainland. We're an island economy. We're a small economy. We don't have the depth and resources that a state does. Therefore, we need to develop a Guam tax code. We've already seen the penalty for not delinking. We need to delink. The immediate benefit will be to relieve taxpayers of a $70 million obligation to pay EITC. Number 6, we need to evaluate staffing levels at all areas of government in Guam. And the example I want to use here is vice principals. That is a position that is more a political payoff than anything else. In today's society, we have no reason why all of our high schools should have 4 vice principals. Taking the vice principals and returning them to teachers will serve 2 functions. One, it will dramatically reduce the personnel costs of the Department of Education. And number 2, it will provide a dramatic increase in the number of available teachers to be used in the classrooms, which will help reduce the teacher to student ratio. Another suggestion, consolidate all personnel offices and all the agencies and autonomous agencies of government in Guam into one personnel department, and then take all the excess personnel from the different personnel departments and transfer them to Department of Revenue and Tax to increase the collection ability, the customer service ability, and the audit ability of Department of Revenue and Taxation. Right now, revenue and taxation, by their own admission, has somewhere near 160 to 180 million in uncollected taxes. And we know that EITC claims are rampant with mistakes, but those mistakes tend to, according to the Government Accounting Office, EITC filing mistakes run around 30%. Just imagine if the Revenue and Tax had the staff to audit EITC and reduce dramatically the EITC claims through correcting the forms. We could also consolidate all of our law enforcement. Back in the 1970s, law enforcement was all combined. We didn't have an airport police. We didn't have a harbor police. We didn't have court police. We had the Department of Public Safety, which covered everything. Just imagine the savings there, plus realignment of manpower to fill the uniformed hold positions, plus eliminating redundant staff. 7, we need to sell GPA's generation capability and go to power purchase agreements with the providers, much like we're seeing now with the solar. The solar companies came in and spent, I'm guessing, somewhere around $70–80 million. The wind generator came in and spent about $10 to $20 million. And all the people of Guam pay for is the power generated by those facilities. We are not paying the principal and interest and fees on bonds to create those assets. So going forward, we should sell the existing generation capability of government. We should sell the existing generation capability of Guam Power Authority and just buy the power back. And then on that $300 million insurance claim from Cabris, we should take $100 million of that money to pay for the construction of Simon Sanchez High School so that we can avoid going deeper into debt, take the remaining $200 million from the insurance proceeds, and retire GPA bond debt. And number 8, when I was in the consulting world, I used to tell my clients all the time, it's 10 times easier to save a penny than to generate a penny. So what we need to do is take a comprehensive look at how government of Guam spends its money and go through with a very fine-tooth comb and eliminate expenditures that are not necessary to the performance of the mission. Example, let's eliminate all the automobiles that have been assigned to directors and assistant directors and transfer those vehicles over to Guam Police Department to be used for patrol vehicles. We could close down Government House and eliminate the expenses of operating Government House and maybe turn it into an office. Maybe move the governor's office there and move other offices out of commercial buildings into Adelut. We could conserve energy. Many times I'll drive by government buildings at night and you'll see that all the offices are brightly lit. We should put power bricks on all the copiers and computers so that we can eliminate vampire. When I did this with small businesses, we were able to cut the power bill by $100 a month. If you consider every government office is the equivalent of a small business, those pennies could add up to real dollars very quickly if we eliminate vampire power usage. And we need to stop paying for radio ads for government of Guam. The other day I'm driving down the road and I'm listening to ads proclaiming Guam Airport, Guam International Airport. Really? What kind of competition does the Guam International Airport have? It's not like Los Angeles. Los Angeles, you have like 8 regional airports within driving distance of the Los Angeles International Airport. So maybe for them it makes sense to advertise for business. But Guam, we only have 1 airport. Why is the airport advertising? And it's not just the airport. I hear other government of Guam agencies advertising on the radio. We really don't need advertisements to alert us to the fact that these agencies exist. We need to stop spending money. Another quick hit would be to eliminate the primary election. There's $400,000 that are going to be spent that does nothing more than identify which candidates are going to represent the Republican, which candidates are going to represent the Democratic parties. That's an expenditure taxpayers shouldn't be forced to bear. I listened to the governor's address, and I have to admit I had some hope going into it. I was hoping that he was going to acknowledge the problems and come up with real solutions. But instead, he summed up his address with the following. He is going to call a special session and he's going to submit a bill, and he wants the people of Guam to pay for it. And for me and thousands like me, that is not an acceptable option. Government of Guam needs to do the hard work first. This is what you guys were elected for. This is what you guys were appointed to do. Reduce operating costs of government of Guam dramatically before you come to the people and ask a population that is already struggling to make ends meet from paycheck to paycheck and ask us to give more. My name is Ken Leon Guerrero. I'm the spokesperson for Guam Citizens for Public Accountability, and this is our response to the governor.